Yan, for the continuation of our lecture 1, we'll now discuss productivity. What is productivity? Malimit natin ito maririnig. Siguro hanggang finals, we will be discussing or we will be using this term productivity kasi these are one of our major improvement points. Productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness. Kaya, let's start. Productivity is the measure of how well resources are brought together in an organization and utilized for accomplishing set of results. Productivity is reaching the highest level of performance with least expenditure resources. In other words, we need to perform the best we could do by using always the least possible resources. For example, we need to get 10 outputs from all our materials. We also need just to get at least 10 output, at least 10 inputs. Kung kailangan natin ng 100 airplanes, we only need to use at least, or I think as at most target, we need only to use 100, also 100 resources para mabuo natin siya. By that, we could tell na tayo ay productive. Productivity is the combination of effectiveness and efficiency. Ibig sabihin, if you are not effective and the process is not efficient, productivity will not exist. Or we could say na, if the process is efficient but you are not effective as the worker, productivity will not also be met. Or vice versa. Basta this is the combination of an effective worker and an efficient workstation or work process. Effectiveness related to the performance of the worker, and efficiency is from the resources, materials, equipments, so on and so forth. Productivity is generally expressed from the relationship of our output and our input. Ano ba yung relationship ng ganong quantity of goods and service produced versus the quantity of labor, capital, land, energy, and other resources to produce it. Or we could say, productivity is the relationship between output or input. Ibig sabihin, kapag siya relationship, basic creation of equations is siya relationship, we consider it as a fraction of output is a fraction of the input. Or we could say productivity is the ratio of output to input. Gano'ng kadami yung ating output to input. Meaning to say, these two values should always be kailangan natin siya mahanap for us to get the productivity. Productivity in percentage is equivalent to output over input. Yun lagi ang tatandaan. Productivity is equivalent to output over input. Paano natin mai-improve si productivity? By using our equation. By looking at our equation, how could we improve the productivity? For us to add the value of productivity, we could either increase the numerator or decrease the denominator, diba? Pag mathematical equation. For us to improve productivity, it's either we increase the output, the numerator, tapos same lang yung input or constant yung input, or we need to decrease the input, same lang yung output. Or we could increase the output and decrease the input. Ano siya in normal circumstances? For example, meron kayong yung materials sa paggagawa ng ng cake. For example, in creating cake, it's either for you to increase the productivity of your process, it's either you create more cake using the same materials, or you need to create the same cake using lesser materials. I hope you get it. Productivity is, it's either you create more by using the same amount, or you could create a thing using the less amount, or you could be using both. We could be having the extremes. You will be creating more by using the lesser. Mas madami kang magagawa pero kakaunti yung magagamit. Which is ideal. It depends on kung ano yung situation ng company nyo. For us to measure productivity, ito yung mga possible units na kailangan natin consider. Output per worker per hour. Output per worker hour. Ibig sabihin, gaano kadami nagagawa ng worker kada oras. Yun yung sa Tagalog. Output per worker hour is gaano kadami yung nagagawa ng worker kada isang oras. Quality level is gano'ng kalaki yung percent good, gano'ng kadami yung percent defect, for example. Gano'ng kadami yung audit score, gano'ng kalaki yung audit score or yung percentage of improved or good products. Average production response time or the lead time. We'll discuss that further. Average level of work in process. Gano'ng kadami yung work in process natin sa system. Yun yung magagamit natin. Average hours of downtime per worker hour. Or ano ba yung downtime? Yung delays. Gano'ng kadami malimit yung delays per hour ng worker. Ano ba yung mga delays niyan? For example, paghahanap ng screwdriver, yan. Paghahanap ko nasan yung gunting, those are downtimes. Ano yung average hour of downtime per hour? Safety, housekeeping, and absentee index. Safety index, gano'ng kadami na disgrasya. Housekeeping index, gano'ng kadami yung occurrences na nagkaroon ng mga losses. Yan. And absenteeism, pag absent ng worker, is also could be considered as productivity measurement. Pag pangit ang productivity, it could be a domino effect of pangit yung safety, pangit yung housekeeping, madaming a-absent. Pag pangit din ang productivity, it could lead to high downtime. It could be cost of high downtime. Yan, so on and so forth. We have 5 key elements of productivity: inventions, innovations, investment, integrations, and informations. Those 5 I's could be considered as key elements in improving productivity. It's either we create, we invent, we create an improvement plan or a machine. It's either we innovate or yung process na meron tayo, improve natin, innovation. We could invest. We could invest for another worker or another machine. We could integrate. Yung dating kayang gawin ng dalawang tao, it could be created by one machine, one worker. Diba? Integration. And it could be through information dissemination. By improving the transferring of informations, sa halip na you will be looking for, if you will be looking for a visual, for example, if hihintayin mo matapos yung para malaman mo tapos na yung product, dapat ay makikita mo siya na kulay black na siya lahat. But if we create, syempre, you will be looking, masyadong matagal yung time. But kung mayroong indicator na biglang may toot, it could be a good kind of information transfer by the use of signaling devices. Mas mabilis yung ating productivity. Sa halip na i-check mo pa siya, kasi babalikan mo, check mo ulit. It could be redundant. It could incur masyadong madaming time ka para mag-check. Sa halip na may ginagawa, iba kang ginagawang mas productive. We could create some information cues para ma-reduce natin yung avoidable delays na tinatawag yung sa ating Fairblades. We could use 3 kinds of productivity. We have factor productivity, multi-factor productivity, and total factor productivity. Ano yung kanilang differences? Sa partial factor is we only use one input. Or we could say output to one particular input. For example, output per hour, output per labor hour. Ang kinonsider lang natin, labor hour. Hindi natin kinonsider yung materials. Output per materials, hindi natin kinonsider yung output per manufacturing overhead. Pag multi-factor naman, yun nga, we could consider different kinds of inputs. Output per labor, per machine, per material, per overhead. Guys, as a quick input, yung overhead is electricity, water, yan. Electricity, water, diesel, yan. Yun yung mga overheads natin. Overhead costs ang tawag. In terms of manufacturing process kasi, we always consider 3 major costs. We have the labor cost, we have the raw materials cost, and we have the manufacturing overhead or the production overhead costs. Yung labor, yung worker, yung materials, yung raw materials itself, yung mga materials para ma-produce yung product, and yung overhead is your yung mga utilities natin. Electricity, water, diesel, internet connections, yan, so on and so forth. Those are called overheads. And total factor is yung kung lahat ng factor na given ay ginamit natin. Ginamit natin lahat ng I's or lahat ng inputs. Yan. As you can see, as an example, yan, for example is labor productivity. Pag sinabing labor productivity, meaning we will be considering the number of outputs divided by the number of labor hours or divided by the number of labor hours. Always remember that labor is ang unit ni labor dapat lagi is hours, or it could be seconds, depende kung ano yung hinihingi. Yan. Basta always remember that labor is not, lagi nyo tatandaan, nakakalito kasi yan malimit. Labor, kasi iniisip natin, number of tao yon kasi labor. Always remember that labor always is denoted to hours. Lagi siyang hours. For example, yan ha. What is the productivity daw? Kapag daw ang unit produced is 1,000, then ang labor hours is 250. Ano yung sabihin ng 250 labor hours? 250 hours niya ginawa yung 1,000. Yun ha, tatandaan. Yung labor hours ay gano'ng katagal ginawa yung lahat ng ginawang yun. Yun yung labor hour. Gano'ng katagal yung trinabaho. Yan. Ang Tagalog sa labor hours is tinrabaho. Means say the formula is unit divided by labor hours. We could get 1,000 divided by 250. We could get 4 units per labor hour. Don't forget the unit kasi yan ay important. If you will not be using unit, ay di natin alam kung ano yan. 4. Ano yung 4? Always, lagi nyo tatandaan kung ano yung unit. For us to get the correct unit, we need to use the correct equation. We also have a multi-factor. Yung kanina, partial factor lang yung ginawa natin. Ito. Kasi single factor lang siya. Kapag multi-factor, consider natin lahat. Multi-factor productivity is output is, yung output natin is in terms of, kung mapapansin nyo dyan, ang output natin is in terms of gano'ng kadami yung na-produce na product times kung magkano yung product pag binenta. Or, diba? Pag binenta. Or the output, ibig sabihin ang unit nito ay units times dollars. Diba? Ito naman, ang ating computation dito is hours, labor hours, times magkano yung per labor hour, magkano yung bayad sa kanila per hour, times magkano yung nagastos, plus magkano yung nagastos sa materials. Ito, papansin nyo. Then yung overhead natin. Yung overhead naman natin, gano'ng kadami daw for example. It could be just a given. For example, this is the cost of the overhead. Ito yung cost ng overhead natin. Yan. We could get the value of our multi-factor productivity of 4.52 by using the output over yung mga input natin. Pag madami sila, it is considered a multi-factor productivity of considering all these following factors. Ano po? Let's get some examples. For example daw, a company that processes fruits and vegetables is able to produce 400 cases of canned peaches in 1 hour, in 1/2 hour with 4 workers. What is the labor productivity? Meaning, we'll be considering the labor of the labor or yung workers' productivity. Workers' productivity could be computed by the quantity produced or the units. Laging ang numerator natin kasi lagi guys, ay tatandaan nyo ay output. Ano yung output? E di gano'ng kadami yung na-produce divided by labor hours. Ibig sabihin, yung quantity produced natin, if you will be looking, 400 siya. Kasi 400 daw na-produce. Diba? Kaya ito ay 400. Divided by labor hours. Ano, ang Tagalog nga sa labor hours ay gano'ng katagal ginawa. Lahat yon ay di 1/2 hour daw per worker. Diba? Ibig sabihin, 1/2 hour per worker ay 4 silang worker. Ibig sabihin, 4 workers times 1/2 ang ating denominator. I hope you get it. Kasi nga, ang Tagalog nga sa labor hours is gano'ng katagal ginawa lahat yon. What is the total time na ginawa lahat yun? Kung tutuusin, 1/2 hour lang siya nga ginawa. But, total labor hours yan. Kung isa lang ang gagawa niyan, gano'ng katagal? Yun ang i-analyze nyo. Kasi, pag ang gumawa ay 12, pag ang gumawa ay isa lang, ay 4, 1/2 hour lang, tapos na lahat yon. But, ang tanong ay, pag labor hours is, we could say, gano'ng katagal siya ginawa lahat? Or, para mas hindi pa kayo malito, kung isa lang tao ang gagawa, gano'ng katagal yun? Ibig sabihin, yung 1/2 hour, ita-times natin sa 4 kasi 4 yung gumawa. Kaya ang denominator natin ay 4 times 1/2. 400 divided by 4 times 1/2, we could get 200 cases per labor hour. Ito na yung ating labor productivity. Pag tinanong, what is the labor productivity? Siya ay 200 cases per labor hour. I hope it's clear. Let's try another example. A wrapping paper company produce 2,000 rolls of paper. Yan. Ibig sabihin, ito na agad ang ating output. Of paper on one day. Standard price is $1 per roll. Ibig sabihin, ito ang selling price natin. Labor hour costs $160. Material cost is $50 and overhead cost is $320. Determine the multi-factor productivity. Paano natin siya ngayon kukumputin? Diba? Diba, as you could remember, ang ating formula is output over input. We could consider na ang ating output is gano'ng kadami na produce times gano'ng kadami yung standard price. Para sa lahat ay puro sa may dollars. Kung may dollars yung denominator, dapat may dollars din yung numerator. Numerator natin is quality of produce at standard price. Ibig sabihin, 2,000 times $1. Ibig sabihin, siya ay $2,000 ang ating sales. Divided by, kagaya dito, labor, material, overhead. Ibig sabihin, ang denominator natin ay 160 plus 50 plus 320. Considering the equation and performing the mathematical computation, we could get that, using this formula, we could get 3.77 rolls of output per dollar. Yan ang ating ng unit. Diba? 3.77 rolls per output per dollar. Meaning to say, yan ang ating multi-factor productivity. I hope naintindihan siya. Then, let's have another example. Nag-example na tayo ng single factor, multiple factor. Let's try this one. Find the productivity if 4 workers installed 720 square yards of carpeting in 8 hours. Paano natin siya kukumputin? Meron daw nagtrabaho for 8 hours, 4 daw sila. Ibig sabihin, ang denominator agad natin, kagaya kanina, is 8 times 4 workers. Diba? Yun agad ang ating labor hours. O, tama tayo. Then, ang na-produce is 720. Yung numerator natin ay 720. Normally kasi, ang possible lang talaga kayong malito dyan is yung denominator. If your denominator is wrong, mali na sa Jaya. Kasi yung malimit kasi guys, yung output, given, parang siya is self-explanatory. Ito yung output niya. But yung labor hour or material cost, etc. Dyan kayo medyo malilito. Always remember lang na yung labor hours is equivalent sa gano'ng katagal sa lahat magagawa kung isa lang ang magagawa. Yun na yung, it's my tip sa inyo para hindi kayo malito. Isipin nyo lang lagi, yung total labor hours is gano'ng katagal siya magagawa kung isa lang ang magtatrabaho. Kaya you need to compute it equivalent sa isa-isa. 720 divided by 32 is equivalent to 22 yards per hour. Ang ating total yun yung ating productivity or labor productivity. Next. Compute for yung letter B ito. Compute for the productivity of the machine which produce 68 usable pieces in 2 hours. Paano na siya kukumputin? Di output is 68 pieces, input is 2 hours. Meaning, output over input, using the equation and performing the mathematical computation, we could get 34 pieces per hour. Siya naman ay medyo straight to the point pa. As long as you understand what is the meaning of labor hours. Yan ang pinaka-important. Lalo na pag multi-factor. Yan. This is my last example. I hope clear yung first 3 example. At Modern Lumber Incorporated, Art Binley, president and producer of Apple Crates, sold the growers and has been able, with his current equipment, to produce 240 crates per 100 logs. Nakapag-produce daw tayo ng 240 crates per 100 logs. He currently purchases 100 logs per day, and each log requires 3 labor hours to process. He believes that he can hire a professional buyer who can buy a better quality log at the same cost. If this is the case, he can increase his production of 260 crates per 100 log, his labor hours will increase by 8 hours per day. And what will be the impact on the productivity? Yan. Ano daw yung magiging improvement natin sa number of crates per labor hour if the buyer is hired? Yan. Ibig sabihin, what would be the impact? Kailangan natin computein yung before and after. Diba? Ganun naman kasi lagi yun. Ibig sabihin yung before ay yung may currently. Itong part na ito is yung before, then itong part na ito yung after. Diba? Kasi he believes that he can hire. It is a future plan. We need to get the impact, or the difference from before and after. We need first to compute the productivity of before versus the productivity of nung after. Yan. So, paano natin yung gagawin? How could we do that? Yung, ano muna tayo? Case 1. Yung case 1 is yung before. Ito. Then, yung case 2 natin is after. Yan. Then, we will be comparing it. After makompute si before, compute si after, kukompare natin siya ngayon. To get the current labor productivity, yung case 1, wala pang buyer, output divided by input. Ang ating output daw before is 200. Kulayan niya natin para atin siya makita. Yan. Para tayo hindi malito. Yan. Yung before daw, ang atin daw output is 240 crates. Yan. 240 crates. Ang input natin, di ba? Ang input natin is materials required at saka yung labor hours. Kung mapapansin ninyo, material required at saka labor hours. Eh, sabi dito, 1 log requires 3 hours labor hour. Ibig sabihin, yung isa daw troso, matatapos daw siya ng 3 oras kada isa. Ibig sabihin, kung 100 ang ginamit na logs, di ba? Kung 100 ang ginamit na logs, ay di times 3 hours per log para makuha natin kung gaano katagal siya ginawa. Diba? Kaya ang ating output is 240 crates, ang ating input is 100 logs times 3 hours per log para ma-cancel out yung log para maging 300 hours na lang siya. Diba? 100 times 3 hours per log, cancel yung log, kaya 100 times 3 is 300. Meaning to say, tayo ay 0.8 crates per labor hour. Yun yung ating current labor productivity. Yun yung ating current labor productivity. Na-solve na natin yung before. Let's now solve after para makita natin yung improvement. Dati, 240 yung ma-output niya. Ngayon, 260 na lang yung ma-output niya. Diba? Then, ang labor hour daw niya, kaso nga lang daw, ang labor hour niya, mag-i-increase ng 8 hours per day. Let's try computing. Dati kasi, per log ang kanyang hours. Diba? Let's try computing. Ang labor productivity niya pagbago na is 260. This is our output. Then, ang labor hours natin is 8. Dati kasi, yung original niyang oras ay madadagdagan ng 8 hours. Kasi diba ang sabi? If this is the case, he can increase his productivity to 260 crates per 100. His labor hour will increase by 8 hours per day. Yun nga, yun ang dilemma. Mag-i-increase siya ng output, kaso madadagdagan ng 8 hours ang trabaho niya, araw-araw. Kasi nag-hire siya. Nag-hire siya ng professional buyer. Diba? Ibig sabihin, nag-increase yung output, nag-increase din yung cost. Tingnan natin kung mas maganda siya. Paano na siya in computation? Ibig sabihin, 260 na yung output niya times yung input natin kagaya nung kanina, diba? Yung kanina natin na 100 logs times 3, paso, madadagdagan siya ng 8 hours kasi ang sabi, pagka-hire daw nun, madadagdagan daw siya ng 8 hours. Kaya, ang ating input ay magiging 100 logs times 3 hours per log, cancel out yung log, plus 8 hours kasi madadagdagan nga daw ng 8 hours. The 260 divided by 308, using the equation and solving using the mathematical consideration, makukuha natin yung 0.844 crates per labor hour. Meaning to say, anong ibig sabihin yan? Nag-increase ba or nag-decrease ang ating productivity? From 0.8 naging 0.844. Always remember na kapag productivity, a value nearest to 1.00 or 100% is best, or is yun ang ating target. Our target always is to get the nearest value from 1.00 or 100%. Ibig sabihin, the higher the value, the better. As we could see from before, 0.8 siya, 0.800 naging 0.844, meaning the productivity have increased. Yan. Paano natin ngayon kukumputin ang increase ng productivity? For us to compute the increase in productivity, we could solve it by using the formula output ay final divided by the initial. Yun lang. Percentage increase is equivalent to final divided by the initial. Ang final natin ay 0.84 divided by the initial. Di ang makukuha natin ay 1.055 ang value. Converting it into a fraction, into a percentage, we could get na pag sinubtract natin siya sa 1, ibig sabihin ang productivity niya na ay nag-increase ng 105.5%. Diba? From 100%, paano ba siya ma-explain ng ayos? From 100%, siya ay naging 105.5%. Diba? Pag i-convert natin. So, meaning to say, ang improvement is 5.5 pag sinubtract nito. Percent. Meaning, our improvement is 5.5%. Pag ang tinanong is, what would be the impact on the productivity if the buyer is hired? We could say that if we hire the buyer, we could improve our productivity by 5.5%. Yun yung ating sagot. And these following examples are mostly examples on how you could compute productivity in different kinds of situations. It could be multi-factor, it could be single factor, it could be a direct substitution one, and it could be this kind of comparison of before and after. Yun po. For this week, this would be our lecture from our first lecture up to this video. Thank you guys. Have a nice day ahead. God bless.